All right, this is my video for Communications 320 week 10, I think, week 10 or 11, work-life balance. So the first article that I chose to go over was the impact of Gen Z in the workplace. I chose this one because I am Gen Z, and so I figured that would be a good place to start. Talking about my generation specifically. So this article addresses the entrance of Gen Z into the global workforce. Just from looking it up online, Gen Z comprises those born from roughly 1997 to the mid-2000s. As the oldest are in their late 20s, they are beginning to not only graduate college, but many have entered the workforce already. So this article states that their technological fluency and progressive mindset are what set them apart in a corporate climate that is dependent on digital innovation and cultural agility. Gen Z is helping to redefine the digital frontier. They are the first generation who has grown up with the internet and spent, I know obviously millennials kind of had the internet, but Gen Z is really, I think, the first generation that just from the very beginning has had consistent access to that technology and to the ability to be online. And from what this article is saying, this gives them a uniquely intuitive grasp of digital tools and allows them to redefine processes, amplify productivity, and introduce creative solutions to technological challenges. A preference for succinctness and efficiency is pushing some companies to adopt more immediate digital communications as well. I know things like Slack and Teams are becoming really, really popular. These more quick, efficient ways of communicating between groups as opposed to having even a virtual meeting. So Gen Z is also actively embracing diversity and inclusion and is the most ethnically and racially diverse generation in history. Many young people are pushing for workplaces that reflect those ideals, and globalization especially allows for workplaces to be anywhere. So my Zoom workplace could have someone from any corner of the globe and we could all work together. I know at my specific workplace, we have employee groups through our main company website for specific causes. So you could be in the, Asian American group or the African American group or the disability advocacy group, military, LGBT, there's a bunch of different ones. And you can be either a member of those groups or you can be a supporter and be part of those groups. And they do, awareness, advocacy, different things. And it's also good for networking. But additionally, Gen Z are champions of environmental protection, pushing for sustainability and corporate responsibility. Another big one is mental health advocacy and awareness, as well as just work-life balance. Those are really high priorities for Gen Z from what this article says. Companies are adapting their policies in turn to support more physical and emotional wellness initiatives. I know a big one at my job is, which I'm not on their insurance, but they have a credit to your insurance. If you do a certain amount of wellness activities, they'll credit $500 back to your insurance every year if you will go do this list of, wellness activities that they have set up. So that's one that our work has. Another thing is that Gen Z has a strong entrepreneurial spirit and continues to challenge convention, especially, and push for the change that they want to see. And a strong desire for continuous learning, pursuing advancement and development opportunities when possible. And so that is the first article. The next one that I decided to do was, 21 essential work-life balance tips. So for this one, according to this article, 52% of workers report being burnt out. Some of the challenges that are faced in trying to achieve work-life balance include excessive workload, unrealistic demands, lack of support from supervisors, need for flexibility, and etc. So what exactly is work-life balance? So work-life balance is the balance between your personal life and your professional responsibilities. It's managing your time to fulfill your job requirements while also prioritizing fun, family, and your health. So what are some of the tips that this article suggests for combating burnout? One of the first ones is to go on a solo adventure day, to go out and have an adventure for yourself. I like to do that. I'll go to the museum because we get museum passes through the library, and my work partners with them as well. I have season tickets to the symphony, which if you guys don't use your student ID for season tickets for the symphony, it's a really good deal. You should do it. Go on hikes, things like that. Just go out and do something to spend time with yourself instead of at work. Another one that they suggest is a task time capsule. So taking all of the tasks that you kind of dread or put off and put them in a jar, and then when you are feeling especially motivated, pull one of them out and do it when you have that extra energy. The next one is a co-working club where you get together and you work on your respective tasks with others. I especially like this one. My roommate and I are both students, and on Sundays we will go get bagels at the bagel place by our house, and then we go to one of the coffee shops by our house with our laptops and work on our respective, work at the coffee shop. And so I find that very productive. So that's a good tip. A couple of the next ones are just physical health-oriented tasks, such as staying off of devices and social media before going to bed, going on walks, taking time for hobbies. Those are all really great tips. I live right next to a park, and so I'll go take walks just on the loop through the park. I don't do as good about staying off of social media before bed as I should, but that is a good idea. A few more that might allow for spending a little bit of money, if that's something you want to do, includes planning a weekend vacation or setting up budgets for generosity and for joy. That's a good one actually for my workplace, because they will pay us to volunteer, and they'll also match us if we donate to charity. And so I've gotten to take advantage of that quite a few times where, I'll go volunteer my time and they'll either pay me a certain amount to do it during work hours if it's a work volunteer thing, or I can log it into our work tracker, and if I do a certain amount of volunteer hours per year, they'll give me a $500 grant to donate to a charity of my choice. And you can do that up to twice per year. I think the threshold's like 50 hours of volunteerism. And so a lot of people do that, which is pretty cool. So why does work-life balance matter? If we are burnt out, our health may decline, our relationships may suffer, we lose our free time, we miss out on major life events, and we can succumb to fatigue. If we can manage to maintain a work-life balance, we're rewarded with, general happiness, improved relationships, productivity, physical health, and then personal and spiritual growth. The third article that I chose to go over was 10 clear signs you need work-life balance. This one was kind of the negative counterpart of the last one. That one was like, here's some fun tips to counteract burnout. This one's like, here's the signs that you are burnt out, bro. So this one goes over just the signs of burnout and what you can do to prevent it. So one of the first signs of burnout is just feeling irritated all of the time, overloading yourself makes you feel frustrated and overwhelmed. Next is pessimistic thoughts. Burnout causes us to feel drained and have just a poor mental outlook. I know as students, especially those of us who work full-time and are students, not to say that just being a student isn't hard enough in and of itself, but, those of us who are doing a lot as students or as workers and students can definitely experience that burnout and that irritation with just dealing with so much at any given time and having so much on your plate. But next is pessimistic thoughts. Burnout can cause us to just have that, I might have said this one already, have a poor mental outlook. We find ourselves often in burnout without any time for ourselves. And work-life balance can be helped by just taking time for ourselves to recharge or to pursue some hobbies. Burnout can just often leave us feeling that we may struggle to accomplish even simple tasks. Something that you would normally be able to accomplish really easily when you're in that state of just being so overwhelmed. Even small things can just push you over the edge. I remember the last time that I was in school and was working full-time. I was working in a much more physically demanding career than I am now. And there was a time where I just I think it was that I came home and I forgot that I didn't make my bed, and all my laundry was piled up on my bed, and that was just the last straw, and just crashed out about it. And so it's always that one small, the straw that breaks the camel's back that can push you over. One of the other big signs of burnout is that we just find ourselves constantly working or always talking about work. Our brain just might not let us take a break. And then one of the final signs of burnout is just that if you're constantly tired or exhausted and just unable to recover. So a couple ways that this article suggests of avoiding burnout or to increasing work-life balance is to pursue things that just make us feel more whole, taking intermittent breaks, keeping our inner dialogue positive, and working fewer hours per week if needed. Planning and prioritizing tasks, delegating, leaving work on time. That's a good one. Taking vacations, setting up block calendars, getting enough sleep. Those are all things that can just contribute to peace of mind and stability. And then for the article that we had to choose for ourselves, I found a Forbes article called "Forget Work-Life Balance, the Future is Less Work," which kind of takes a little bit of a different approach than some of these other ones. They posit that the arbiter of change for true work-life balance is in challenging the notion that more time spent at work means greater success. I think especially in some of the older generations, there is this, put your nose to the grindstone mentality of if you spend so much time, it directly correlates to being successful. Whereas I think there's a shifting social contract that says it's more about what you do in the time than the time that you spend. So the first step that they talk about is redefining the where of the workplace. So as employees have realized that work is less so a place that you go and more so something you do, they've realized that you can do the work from more than just at a desk or in a traditional office. So a lot of digital nomads are now taking the ability to work anywhere and are working in countries with a lower cost of living or higher quality of life. Many employees are pushing to work from home or for hybrid options, especially after becoming accustomed to it during COVID and work from home mandates where, a lot of offices were closed and people realized, I could do this from home and I don't understand why I can't with these companies wanting me to return to office now. And then employees, in this article, they talk about how employees just kind of perceive work differently now. So, as I mentioned before, working long hours and being constantly available to your employer has lost its luster with especially some of the younger generations. Trends like quiet quitting are a direct response to just the overwhelming burnout that seems to be very common right now. Today's employees are setting boundaries and refusing to work without being compensated. And especially there are trends like FIRE, which is financial independence, retire early, which show a desire to reduce the time spent overall in traditional work. And then the next thing that they talk about is just that the days of, a company rewarding loyalty with a pension and employees dedicating large chunks of their working lives to one company are over. It's pretty exceedingly rare for a company to offer a pension or to have that kind of structure anymore unless you work for something like the government. And even then, things are really different than they were back in, my grandparents' time or my parents' time. Job hopping, gig work, and just diversifying income streams are increasingly common. And employees are not tied by loyalty to one company anymore, and they can choose to change jobs to follow the best opportunities for advancement. So the new social contract is one just of less work inherently, and that technological and economic advancement should benefit everyone. People want to build their careers around their lives, not their lives around their careers. And so that was the article that I found.